Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. It is Thursday, March 10th, 2016, and I'm Leanne McAdoo. Here's what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, high school students skeptical of big government could soon find themselves on a watch list courtesy of their peers. Then, tasking computers with finding crimes that have not been committed. After that, a report states that half of Californians are pre-diabetic. And the latest on politics. That's next.
Yeah, of course that's not going to happen. They're not going to indict her.
No, not at all.
There's Joe Biggs.
Look, it's taken how long for her to actually come out and admit that she's done something wrong? We all know that she's done something wrong. There's nothing new here. This woman's a snake. I don't understand how anybody in America can vote for this disgusting, vile human being.
They just asked Hillary Clinton, straight up, you know Donald Trump, is he a racist? And so she, I have plenty of time to answer that.
My fellow Info Warriors, I am very excited to be able to announce to you the introduction at InfoWarsLife.com of a new way to save time and money when you stock up on InfoWars Life formulations like Survival Shield X2 and Super Male Vitality. Just go to InfoWarsLife.com today, select your favorite product, click on Auto Ship before adding to cart, and choose how often you want us to send you another order. Every time you choose Auto Ship at InfoWarsLife.com, you get 10% off and you won't have to worry about running out and having to reorder next time. And of course, you can cancel with one click anytime. As you know, I'm all about the idea of a 360 win, and the new auto ship feature at InfoWarsLife.com is a sure win for everybody. A win for liberty, a win for health, and a win when it comes to big savings. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today and save 10% on your next InfoWars Life order by selecting auto ship at checkout. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
Well, earlier today, Ted Cruz came out and said that a lot of the popularity we're seeing surrounding Donald Trump is due to the fact that he has a lot of low information voters who also are not very politically engaged. Now, coming up later in the segment, we're going to be watching a video of one of these seemingly low information voters who assaulted someone at a Trump rally, which is, of course, feeding right into the establishment media frenzy of all of these race politics. Now, that gentleman has been charged with assault. But joining me now is David Knight. And David, let's talk about what Ted Cruz has to say about Donald Trump's voters being relatively low information, not very engaged. What do those supporting Ted Cruz need to know about him?
Well, I would say, Leanne, that what we're seeing from Ted Cruz when he says this, I think it really shows an elitism that lies under a thin veneer of pretending that he is an outsider, that he is not part of the establishment. Look, if you believe that Ted Cruz is an outsider, that he's not a part of the establishment, you are the low information voter. And we're going to talk about this, but first, let's talk about the idea that they're not engaged. I mean, who is turning out the biggest crowds?
Right.
Who is creating the largest ratings that we've ever seen for debates? Who is getting record turnout for voters?
Exactly.
Okay. Who is going across demographic, geographic, and party lines to get support? That's Donald Trump. It's not Ted Cruz. He can only wish that. Now the establishment is coalescing behind him. We're going to talk about that. But first, I want to talk to people who are falling for this idea that Ted is the evangelical candidate out there. Of course, he loves to parade his piety in public. And when people call him on it, we see some very disturbing trends against us. And of course, we're all familiar with what happened with Ben Carson. He had to get rid of the other person that was his competition for the Christian vote. And so he did that by telling lies. And then when he was caught on it, he lied about the timeline. It was made known immediately as that first tweet went out, it was made known that Ben Carson was not getting out, but they waited another half hour. And then for a half hour for a full hour, they told this lie to try to get Ben Carson out. We've also seen him spread lies for 2 days about Marco Rubio, saying that he was trolling his dad, saying there's no answers in that book pointing to the Bible. That was not true either. Eventually, he had to take that down, and he had to fire the staffer to pull that back. But I also am bothered by the way that he has trolled Donald Trump for the shibboleth of saying 2 Corinthians. Of course, you know, Donald Trump is a low-information Christian, according to Ted Cruz. And I have to ask the Christians out there, is it really worth it? Would you, if you were running for president, would you throw somebody under the bus? And would you say to everybody out there that, hey, if you don't know how to pronounce 2 Corinthians, if you call it 2 Corinthians, you don't need to come to our church. You don't need to look for Christ, because we're only looking for the high information Christians out there. That's the kind of elitist snobbery that you can expect from somebody who, as a high school student, said he was going to dominate the world. That's why you go to these Ivy League schools, so you can make the kind of connections that he's made with the Bushes. And we're going to explain that to you as well. But of course, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that is his lying about tithing. Of course, he was called on that multiple times because Ted doesn't tithe. That's something that some Christian churches teach. I don't believe that it's something that is necessary, but to give less than 1% of your income to charity. And then when he's called on it, he puts out a lie, says, well, you know, that was 10 years ago. No, it wasn't 10 years earlier. It was 5 years earlier. It was a period of time, he said, when he was starting a family. No, it wasn't a period of time when he was starting a family. So when called on this, all of this is a lie. But let's talk about the fact that he's a conservative. No, he's a neoconservative. He's a neocon. Just back in December, we had National Review, which is a neocon publication, furious at Ted Cruz because he's throwing the word neocon around. They say an influential chorus within the Republican establishment is raising questions about whether Cruz can be trusted on foreign policy. Among this crowd, Cruz's use of the term neocon was seen as the latest evidence of his willingness to elevate politics over principles on matters of national security. They say the term neoconservative is used to describe George W. Bush's hawkish foreign policy views. They say the term had become radioactive. Others, like Elliot Abrams and Elliot Cohen, these are people who are now his supporters, people who are now attacking Donald Trump, said this is something that's used in the far left, the far right parlance. It means a warmonger. It is not something he should have done. He says it's an epithet. It's used pejoratively, says Elliot Cohen, a Bush administration State Department official, because those are the quintessential neocons. And then another Bush administration Defense Department official says simply, it was a dog whistle. This is what he does. He sends out these dog whistles. He climbs over the backs of his Senate colleagues. Immediately as he's elected to the Senate, he wants to run for president. So he trashes his Senate colleagues, okay? And even though he supports neocon militaristic policies, he uses the term so that he can get people to think that he's an outsider because he's made enemies with this. But now let's take a look at the reality. We have been telling you for months, even before the National Review was complaining about the fact that he was using the neocon so they could portray him as an outsider, we were telling you that he was a consummate insider. Right. That this was a lie that he was projecting to people. This is Infowars back in February. Kurt Nemo pointing out he's routinely billed as a Tea Party outsider. And he says it's not simply his connections with his Goldman Sachs investment banking wife or the unreported loan from Goldman Sachs. No, it's people like his campaign manager, Chad Sweet, who co-founded the Chertoff Group with former Homeland Security Director Michael Chertoff, both the Bush and Obama administrations, who advocated for expanding the NSA metadata collection. It's also the fact that Sweet worked for the CIA's National Clandestine Service, according to his biography. They say there's also the fact that one of his advisors has now become James Woolsey, the former director of the CIA during the Clinton administration, who famously said that Ed Snowden should be executed. And he sums it up by saying, Ted Cruz is not even remotely a libertarian. He is a neocon masquerading as a champion of liberty. If nominated and elected, he will continue the forever war agenda that was initiated by the Bush regime, further expanding the high-tech surveillance police state. Unfortunately, many Republicans are buying into this illusion.
Right.
We're also told the same thing by the New American. You can see this infographic that basically shows the connections of these people like John Bolton, always pushing for war. Okay, and the New American points out that he has his lips draw nigh to the Bill of Rights, but his heart and his personally chosen counselors are far from it. And we can go on into the counselors, but you can see it there in that infographic, the many people that are there. Now what's happening is the fact that we have the Bushes joining forces behind Ted Cruz.
Right.
And we saw it first with Neil Bush becoming one of his finance advisors. I mean, the hypocrisy, the insanity of that you would want somebody like that to be your finance advisor when he was behind the savings and loan scandals, when he kicked all that off. But then also the fact that we see with Jeb Bush that he is meeting with all of the candidates except Donald Trump. Now, as this is pointed out in The Hill, they say Bush is huddling with Cruz, Rubio, and Kasich before the Miami debate tonight. And of course, Thursday is the primary in Florida. They say it's unclear whether Bush will endorse one of them as a candidate. No, look, this is what's going on. He's not going to endorse them. The Bushes are coalescing, just like the rest of the establishment, behind Ted Cruz, who has always been a part of the establishment. And he was someone, as Roger Stone pointed out today in this article, he says on the Daily Caller, he says that he has always been a part of the establishment. The Bush-Cruz connection is clear. Ted was George W.'s brain. When he ran for president, he was a top policy advisor. Ted maneuvered for Solicitor General in the Bush world, but he settled for a plum at the Federal Trade Commission. Ted is a Bushman with deep ties to the political and financial establishment. That's what we're just pointing out to you. You need to look at these people, understand his connections to the financial and political establishment. He is not the outsider. He says Ted and his wife brag about being the first Bush marriage. They met as Bush staffers. Okay, she served under Condoleezza Rice, who was pushing the Iraq War and so forth and so on. Now, understand what is going on with this Bush meeting with Kasich, Rubio, and Cruz. Okay, there are arms that are being twisted, deals that are being made, offers being put on the table. He would like to see these guys drop out and coalesce behind Ted Cruz. That's what the establishment is saying. That's what Rush Limbaugh is advising to have happen, okay, so that Cruz can become the winner. What he really wants to do is make a case for himself. He sees the parallels to his father, George H.W. Bush. Ronald Reagan was anointed as a conservative. And Glenn Beck and the rest of the establishment media, Fox News and others, have been establishing Ted Cruz as a conservative. We just told you why he's not, telling people that he is the outsider. But that is what they're selling people. If people believe that, and he can position himself as a Ronald Reagan, what Jeb Bush would like to do, I believe, is position himself as a George H.W. Bush, to say, I have the moderates, I have the establishment that I can deliver for you, or we can oppose you. We can make you a king, or we can take you down. How about it? Make me your vice president. That's what's going on right now. That's what we need to be aware of. And you need to understand who the real outsider is. It's Donald Trump. It's not Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has been a shill all along, and Marco Rubio has been his stalking horse.
Yeah, and this is such key information. It's so important right now because they are really on the attack, the establishment on the other end, really wanting to push Ted Cruz out there. And it's interesting that you talk about him being sort of this wolf in sheep's clothing coming in, because Glenn Beck, who's really been pushing him, that's how I've always seen him. Yeah. Just watching him totally flip-flop when he worked for Fox News, and then was completely against Ron Paul. And then as soon as the election was over, now all of a sudden he's all for Ron Paul. He represents the Tea Party. He leaves Fox News and goes and starts, and he's the voice for the Tea Party.
Glenn Beck is always offering us a Trojan horse.
Right.
Always offering us a Trojan horse. And you can see the mask come off when it's really, when the chips are down. We saw that happen with the Bundy Ranch. Okay, we're seeing it happen again now. When the chips are down, he always offers us the Trojan horse. And of course, Rubio has been the stalking horse.
Well, like I said, this is key information. Thank you so much, David Knight. Be sure to share this video with everyone, because what everyone is seeing is this video that is making the rounds over and over, looping 24-hour news cycle. You're seeing it again and again, is this assault that took place at a Trump rally. And of course, this is feeding right into the racial politics, the racial divide that the establishment is using to try and take down Trump.
Joe Biggs here with Infowars.com with an update on something that has happened in the last 24 hours. Something that is probably the most horrendous act ever carried out on American soil. No, not Pearl Harbor, not even 9/11, something far worse than that. This is the punch heard round the world. And now we're going to bring in Darren McBreen to talk about this. Now, Darren, hey, we're not at a Trump rally, man. Come on. So what's going on right now? We're flipping through all the news channels a second ago, and all I'm seeing is this incident that kind of unfolded where someone got punched at a Trump rally.
It's on every single channel. I mean, you can't get away from it. By the time you see this video, you've probably already seen the video of Rakeem Jones, who is a protester at a Donald Trump rally, and he said he was there as a social experiment. Well, him and his friends went to the Trump rally. They started yelling at Donald Trump. As soon as Donald Trump got on the stage, they were quickly met by security and police officers who then began to escort them out of the building. And then a 78-year-old man named John McGraw sucker punched Rakeem in the face. It looked like it was an elbow or maybe a punch to the face. It was hard to see from the angle that I was looking at. And then the police officers, rather than apprehending the guy who punched Rakeem, they went after the black guy and they escorted him off.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is you have a group of people who went looking for trouble. They found trouble, and now they're crying.
It was a social experiment.
Oh, okay. So they found that experiment. They got their cause in effect, and now they're complaining about it on national TV. They're being held up as these heroes.
National heroes now. Hillary Clinton's already been asked about it.
Count me among those who are truly distraught and even appalled by a lot of what I see. Mr. Trump should not be urging people on. This is deeply distressing, and I think as the campaign goes further, more and more Americans are going to be, really disturbed by the kind of campaign he's running.
All you're going to see for the entire weekend, you're going to see this again and again and again. And this guy, Rakeem Jones, is going to be a national hero. I'm going to predict it right now. Barack Obama is going to invite Rakeem Jones to the White House. You watch.
This is something that they're trying to use. They're doing everything they can to go and derail Trump. They know that people are showing up to his rallies. They're emotional.
And I want to say one more thing. By the way, at this rally and the average Trump rally, there are people of all color. All right, there's lots of black folks there. There's lots of every race and color you can imagine is at these Trump rallies.
You know, it's something you never want to see happen. But again, it's not connected to the campaign whatsoever. It's something that happened in the crowd by bystanders.
Yeah, I guess, Jeff, what some would say here, and let me ask you, some would say it is connected to the campaign, or maybe it's connected to the campaign in terms of the tone and the atmosphere that the candidate himself is creating.
But MSNBC is going to continue to play this over and over again. You're going to know that name, Rakeem Jones, by heart at the end of the day. Stay tuned for more reports about the punch heard round the world. I'm Joe Biggs with Infowars.com.
Only 6 corporations control 90% of what millions of Americans see, hear, and read every single day. It's the illusion of choice. Think about it. The mainstream media is owned by only a handful of megacorporations with vested interests. But on the other hand, the internet is an interconnected network of billions of sources. So you can research information for yourself from multiple sources, or you can blindly accept what you hear or read in the mainstream media, never questioning what you are being told. This gives you a false sense of reality. I mean, do you actually know what you think you know? Or have you been programmed to accept someone else's version of events? Think about it. This is Darren McBreen, and I want you to break the matrix at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv.
Thousands of years ago, there was a basic form of chivalry. Our ancestors would hear the drums of war, giving the warriors of the tribe a chance to organize and prepare a defense. 60 years ago, when foreign air forces were approaching filled with bombs, they had drums of their own. air raid sirens. But in the 21st century, there are silent weapons for quiet war. Pathogens added to the food and water, and to the lining of plastics that destroy our vitality, turn off our hormones, and accelerate our journey towards death. I personally counter this onslaught with Anthroplex. Anthroplex is designed with known organic concentrated herbs to create the basic foundation to normal metabolic activity inside the human body. Discover why Anthroplex is turning so many heads today. It's time for us to take our bodies back into our own hands, and it starts at InfoWarsLife.com with Anthroplex. My fellow InfoWarriors, I am very excited to be able to announce to you the introduction at InfoWarsLife.com of a new way to save time and money when you stock up on InfoWars Life formulations like Survival Shield X2 and Super Male Vitality. Just go to InfoWarsLife.com today, select your favorite product, click on Auto Ship before adding to cart, and choose how often you want us to send you another order. Every time you choose Auto Ship at InfoWarsLife.com, you get 10% off, and you won't have to worry about running out and having to reorder next time. And of course, you can cancel with one click anytime. As you know, I'm all about the idea of a 360 win, and the new auto ship feature at InfoWarsLife.com is a sure win for everybody. A win for liberty, a win for health, and a win when it comes to big savings. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today and save 10% on your next InfoWars Life order by selecting auto ship at checkout. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Your liver can be full of fatty deposits, built-up toxins, and even dangerous objects known as liver stones. We worked with the top developers in the field of detox to take tried and true herbs and other compounds known to safely cleanse the liver and fused it with the latest research and technological development on concentrating these ingredients to give you the maximum effect. Liver Shield is the only liver support product on the market that uses a patented Spigirex blend of powerful organic herbs that support detoxification. And when you visit InfoWarsLife.com, see the instructional video on how to do a 6-day liver detox. This isn't a game, and let me tell you, the results are dramatic. Liver Shield is totally organic and made of the safest high-quality herbs. Liver Shield is the only liver support product on the market that uses a patented Spigirex blend of powerful organic herbs that support detoxification. And when you visit InfoWarsLife.com, see the instructional video on how to do a 6-day liver detox. This isn't a game, and let me tell you, the results are dramatic. Liver Shield is totally organic and made of the safest high-quality herbs. But that said, you need to consult your physician before you do the full detox. Liver Shield can also be used daily by itself for overall upkeep of the liver. Secure your Liver Shield today exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com for the lowest price available. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
Well, of course, the ultimate job of the government is to control the population by telling you they're just taking care of you. And that is why this election cycle, they've really got to make sure they get their guy in there or their gal, because the establishment and the globalists have some very big plans. And they're already beginning to implement this surveillance state. And so this block is really important for you all to pay attention to, because if this system is up and going and there is no checks on what they are doing behind the scenes, it's not going to matter who we get in office. It's already, the control grid is set. The totalitarian surveillance state is a go. It'll be authoritarian, totalitarian, beyond your wildest dreams. And this is what's happening. So we're already starting to begin to see this happening now in high schools across America. This is a new FBI initiative. It's based on Britain's anti-terror mass surveillance program. They're instructing high schools to inform on students who express anti-government and anarchist political beliefs. So these are, they're saying that high school students are ideal targets for recruitment by violent extremists seeking support for radical ideologies, foreign fighter networks, or conducting acts of targeted violence within our borders. And so they're basically asking schools to now tell on people that might have these anarchist views. And of course, they're conflating constitutionalists with sovereign citizens, people who have those anti-government sentiments. But that's also all of you Bernie supporters out there as well, because it's anyone that has extreme anti-tax views. And yes, Bernie wants to take down the establishment. So yes, it's you too. It's not just Al-Qaeda. So people really need to be concerned. And of course, this is already getting parallel with East Germany's Stasi network. And of course, that served as the primary instrument of repression in communist East Germany. The government forged partnerships with businesses, state institutions, and social organizations. Everyone was telling on everyone. We're starting to see that here in America. We've got officials tracking children on social media. They're going to punish students for inappropriate posts that are made outside of school. So this is an Orwellian state-sponsored spying on children. It's going to give school administrators the ability to punish students for things that they do outside of school. And of course, there's always the issue of pre-crime, the crime you have not committed yet. There's new technology that's being worked on right now. Computers are already outperforming humans in predicting who will commit violent crime. So judges are going to be able to use this technology to dole out longer sentences for people that this computer determines might be someone who's going to become an offender in the future. And so if it's wrong, sorry for you, buddy. And of course, you know who else does this? Communist China. They're trying their hand at pre-crime. They've directed one of the country's largest state-run defense contractors, China Electronics Technology Group, to develop software that's going to collect and collate data on jobs, hobbies, consumption habits, and other behavior of ordinary citizens to predict terrorist acts before they occur. And of course, by terrorist attacks, they mean anything that could possibly take down the state. And when you think, oh, well, that's not a problem, don't forget the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, has already been mulling over the idea of whether or not to pursue civil action against climate change deniers. So that's an ideology that's, it's not a crime yet. But, a lot of police out there are people that are working for the man, just doing their job. You're not going to be exempt from this too. They also have algorithms that are going to be predicting police misconduct. So this is a group of scientists that are working as part of the White House's Police Data Initiative, and they're adapting sophisticated software for predicting when cops will go bad. So they're going to be tracking your interactions between officers and civilians, ranging from impolite traffic stops to fatal shootings. And of course, we know Apple just is trying so hard to not bow down to the FBI, telling them to create this software that's going to bypass security features on their phone. We've mentioned this is going to set an ultimate precedent. They're saying someday they're going to want Apple to turn on a user's camera or microphone. We can't do that now, but what if we're forced to do that? Where does it stop? If they want us to do it in a divorce case, an immigration case, a tax case, someday someone's going to ask them to do it, and they'll be forced to if this precedent is set. Now, we know that they're already doing things that they don't have the legal authority to do based on the Constitution. Posse Comitatus Act prohibits the military from operating on American soil, but a report released by the Pentagon Inspector General admits the military has already been using Predator and Reaper drones to surveil the American people. And heads up at spring break, that's the latest policing tool that's going to be monitoring rowdy crowds of spring breakers as well as any protesters. They are already using drones, and don't forget, a lot of them already have weapons.
Remember when 2009 Nobel Peace Prize winner President Barack Obama bragged to his aides that he is really good at killing people in the book Double Down while discussing drone strikes? Well, just how good is he? Obama has managed to kill innocent civilians in Afghanistan with a 90% success rate. And according to the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, Obama's CIA drone strikes have killed children. And our commander-in-chief has bragged about it. The next time some liberal rattles on about how great Obama is, remind them of this horrifying statistic. And now, the Pentagon has finally issued a report made public by a FOIA request stating that unmanned military aircraft have been deployed on non-military missions that have occurred fewer than 20 times between 2006 and 2015 and always in compliance with existing law. Back in 2013, we caught a glimpse of the use of military drones in the United States when then FBI Director Robert Mueller testified before Congress.
Our footprint is very small. We have very few and of limited use, and we're exploring not only the use but also the necessary guidelines for that use.
Does the FBI use drones for surveillance on U.S. soil?
Yes.
The recent revelations of the robbery of liberty for supposed security by an out-of-control myriad of federal alphabet agencies is nothing new. Kurt Nimmo writes, a 400-page Defense Department document obtained by NBC News in 2004 revealed the Pentagon's increased domestic spying activity on anti-war groups following the 9/11 attacks. The CIA also spied on and subverted the anti-war movement with its Operation Chaos in the late 1960s. Additionally, the agency covertly launched Project Merrimack to infiltrate and subvert domestic political groups despite the CIA charter forbidding such activity. In 2012, Infowars.com reported on Obama's Environmental Protection Agency using aerial drones to spy on farmers and cattle ranchers in Nebraska and Iowa. The surveillance came under scrutiny after Nebraska's congressional delegation sent a joint letter to EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson. The EPA argued the flights are legal. Jackson said, courts, including the Supreme Court, have found similar types of flights to be legal, and EPA would use such flights in appropriate instances to protect people and the environment from violations of the Clean Water Act. Oh, and what a stellar job the EPA is doing, as is evident in Durango, Colorado, and Flint, Michigan. Despite the fact the Posse Comitatus Act prohibits the military from operating on American soil, the Pentagon has busied itself with establishing drone bases within the United States. Public Intelligence, a nonprofit advocating free access to government information, released a map of military UAV activities inside the United States in 2012. According to the organization, it is not clear if the bases are used for foreign missions or domestic surveillance. A list produced by the Federal Aviation Administration in response to an Electronic Freedom Foundation Freedom of Information Act lawsuit also shows numerous drone bases within the continental United States. In June of 2015, drone pilots were walking off their jobs in droves. International Business Times reported a group of 45 U.S. military veterans have signed a letter appealing to pilots responsible for carrying out deadly aerial military drone strikes in countries like Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Pakistan to stand down and deliberately refuse to carry out their orders. The letter was submitted to U.S. media outlets by anti-drone group No Drones, pleading with drone pilots to refuse to fly surveillance and kill missions. It's as clear as the nose on your face. The level of treason required to ignore the Constitution, your fellow Americans' rights, and basic human empathy and compassion can only be stomached by the anti-American criminals calling the shots in the highest offices in Washington, D.C. John Bound for Infowars.com.
The knowledge of the ancients, tried and true, trusted herbs and extracts fused with the latest nutraceutical science. Introducing the all-new Ancient Defense Herbal Immunity Blend, crafted with over 14 key ancient herbs and extracts to supercharge and prepare your body for what experts admit is the most dangerous season of the year. We have rejected hundreds of other formulations in our quest to bring you what is simply the most powerful and comprehensive proprietary formula that we have ever created in the realm of herbal immunity. For the last 2 years, our team has been working with top doctors, nutritionists, and chemists to develop the ultimate nutraceutical formulation. Experience the benefits of combining over 14 ancient herbs and extracts with exciting new advances in nutraceutical science. Now is the time to secure Ancient Defense for you and your family. Visit ancientdefense.com or call 888-253-3139. That's ancientdefense.com.
General, what do you think about the FBI saying that there was a terror alert on Monday about a potential Fort Hood situation.
The police are shoving people, shoving Alex, shoving the crowd.
Here we go, folks. I'm being assaulted.
Whether it's the radio show, the news websites, documentary films, or the nightly news, Infowars is the tip of the spear.
Is this another false flag stage attack to take our civil liberties and put more homeland security while sticking the hands down on the pants on the streets?
It's up to us to set brush fires in the minds of men and women everywhere, and that's what PrisonPlanet.tv is designed to do.
You watch, the Assad regime is going to be blamed or accused of using chemical weapons against the so-called rebels.
What we see now is a war against reality. It's a war against the truth.
It's more vital than ever that supporters of freedom become members of PrisonPlanet.tv and share their membership with up to 11 friends and family. Visit InfoWarsNews.com today. Become a member, share your membership, and help take the InfoWar to the next level. Infowars Life and InfoWarsLife.com is extremely excited to announce our latest release, Winter Sun, a revolutionary type of vitamin D3. Winter Sun is a premium quality vitamin D3 nutritional supplement. It is produced by extracting oil from healthy, nutrient-dense plants known as lichens. Every batch is analyzed for purity and D3 content. It's completely free of toxins and allergens. Visit Infowars.com today or call 888-253-3139. Clean, pure drinking water. You can't survive without it. But where do you get it? Alexa Pure Pro is a brand new, groundbreaking, gravity-fed water filtration system that is like no other. The Alexa Pure Pro transforms water from virtually any fresh source into clean, healthy drinking water, pairing the unprecedented superfiltration power of an all-new gravity block core with a hybrid chromatic shell. It removes up to 99.999% of impurities, including bacteria, viruses, fluoride, disinfectants, volatile organic contaminants, and hormones. Filter capacity up to 5,000 gallons. Stainless steel construction. Easy assembly. Low maintenance. Replacement filters are simple to install. And now, as part of an exclusive limited time introductory offer, you can save $20 off the retail price and get free shipping. This is a limited time offer, so order your unit today and receive free shipping and $20 off. Go to InfoWarsStore.com or call 888-253-3139.
Hey, Jakari, here's the question I ask everybody. When you see a squad car in your rear view mirror, do you feel safe or do you feel threatened? Right?
Exactly.
I don't care what color you are. You're not
I put both hands on the wheel. I look straight ahead.
Don't make eye contact.
Exactly. You know, Nick, I used to get hassled by the police. I lived in Pittsburgh. I finished high school there, but it was mainly going to get-togethers. And they didn't like anybody having a party. And I saw many times where police would just enter a house without knocking. They were looking for underage drinkers because they could ticket those people $100 to $200, maybe even $300 a piece. So if they got a whole party of, maybe 50 people, that's a big score for them, especially in these smaller towns. I live in a smaller town outside Pennsylvania, or outside Pittsburgh. And so that's where I saw a lot of police harassment when I was, growing up. And so, I definitely see that, the cops being on a power trip in Pittsburgh.
They're asking Hillary Clinton about her email server now, and did you actually send any of these unclassified emails? And here she's, she finally admitted she made a mistake. We have so many clips to play of her.
Well, I have a piece on that too, because I was the classified security manager for my unit. So.
Any emails marked.
Can you guys pipe in more of the
What
debate?
you're talking about
just a
is
little bit
retroactive classification.
Oh, retroactive classification.
The reason that happens is when somebody asks.
Somebody puts emails on their server that aren't supposed to be there. We have to retroactively classify.
All my emails to be made public. Then all the rest of the government gets to weigh in. And some other parts of the government, we're not exactly sure who, has concluded that some of the emails should be now retroactively classified. They've just said the same thing to former Secretary Colin Powell. They have said, we're going to retroactively classify emails you sent personally. Now, I think he was right when he said this is an absurdity. And I think that what we've got here is a case of overclassification. I am not concerned about it. I am not worried about it.
She was the one who would have had the authority to classify those emails.
There you go.
This is her excuse. She was the one that determined they should be classified. She was the one that had the power. That's why the FBI is...
predecessors, it was permitted. I didn't have to ask.
They already came out earlier this week and said that they were classified, and she was sent classified information.
Wow.
Oh, she doesn't have to
I don't
answer.
get indicted. I'm a Clinton Mafia head.
Yeah.
He's not going to get indicted.
Oh, man. Well, I can't find my article, but it basically says...
Yeah, of course that's not going to happen. They're not going to indict her.
No, not at all.
There's Joe Biggs.
Look, it's taken how long for it to actually come out and admit that she's done something wrong? We all know that she's done something wrong. There's nothing new here. This woman's a snake. I don't understand how anybody in America can vote for this disgusting, vile human being.
They just asked Hillary Clinton, straight up, you know Donald Trump, is he a racist? And so I have plenty of time to answer that here in the future. She went to his wedding. She supports one of the most notable card-carrying KKK members, Robert Byrd, said he was her friend, her mentor. Her husband makes excuses for him at his funeral. So,
yeah, she said he was her mentor.
So they wanted her to say this once again.
Yeah, she's going to bring it out. Disavow.
That's the new buzzword.
Media savages Trump over Duke, ignores Hillary, praising former KKK member Robert Byrd. And Bill Clinton said he did it to get elected. Join the KKK to get elected. That sounds like an excuse.
She just said you don't make America great again by getting rid of everything that made it great. When that's what they are trying to do. They want to do away with the Second Amendment. They want to do away with freedom of speech, freedom of religion, if you're a Christian.
They want to have minders everywhere telling you what you can say and what you can't say.
It's total. That's what made America so great, and that's what we've lost. And no offense, but Bernie Sanders is the ultimate social justice warrior. That's what he spent all of his life doing. So.
Well, instead of asking them about their policies, it's like, what do you think about
Trump
people in the other party? Why don't you ask? Like I said, I'm not a Trump fan, but at least ask her about things she said and done. Ask her about the allegations of her husband's sexual abuse. They want to talk about the character of Trump. What about the character of your own husband?
Right.
Yeah. Who's going to be in the White House again?
Right.
Being able to become a predator again in that power position.
The nominee.
He'll have a lot more free time this time.
Yeah.
First husband.
That's right. Marco.
He's always sitting there saying that Trump's insulting everybody. All he's doing is saying the stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
There are, truthfully, with facts, there are people, criminals coming from Mexico into America. Fact. There was a murder in California. Killed.
There's one in
coming from
Kansas.
other countries. Yeah, in Kansas.
4 killed today by one illegal immigrant who was deported and he came back.
Since when did it become racist to bring out the facts and the truth about situations that are happening?
Facts are racist.
Yeah, exactly. That's the world. This is such an Orwellian time we live in. It's ridiculous.
Facts are racist. And let's not forget that this is being put on by Univision, which is Hillary Clinton's, one of her top donators to her campaign, and Jorge Ramos, his daughter, works for Hillary Clinton. He's one of the moderators. So, fair and balanced.
Hi, Rob, Leanne, Jakari.
Hey.
I'm one of those despicable former Democrats who changed over to vote for Trump. Poor white guy who managed to work his way through college and
You're not poor.
professional school. Yeah, oh yes. But nonetheless, the reason why Trump is head and shoulders above everyone else is because we don't have to make excuses for what he says. He comes back and explains what he says. And the reason that he can do that with such authority and such conviction is that he's a man of substance. He's a man who's been there. He speaks the truth that's in his heart.
He's
His
confident,
record,
very confident.
Precisely. His record bears out his words. There's no question about it. I noticed Hillary a minute ago when addressed with a question about Trump's racism. She says, I have plenty of time to deal with that in the future, which to me is a Freudian slip indicating that she's going to win this and she's going to deal with Trump at some later date.
And he's got plenty of time to deal with her, too.
Amen, Leanne. Thank you for that, my friend.
I can't wait to see these debates, honestly. This is going to be great.
And the biggest issue that we're talking about in the last few minutes is about the colleges. You know, colleges have become a place where they teach you what to think, not how to think. That's exactly the problem with Common Core. That's exactly why Trump wants to get rid of it. We've got to stop molding children and young adults to being the same exact replica. And that's why I believe Trump is the best man. You don't have to make excuses for him. He stands on his own 2 feet, and if he's made a mistake and he needs to change his mind, you know what? He's going to do it, and he'll tell you why.
And he'll bring out wine and steaks for the reporters.
So
as well.
I would just like to point out that Jorge Ramos is asking her to pledge not to deport children or people here illegally without a criminal record. He's asking her to take a pledge, which I thought that according to Ted Cruz, you only pledge allegiance to the flag or the country.
Oh, there you go. He wants her to pledge allegiance to the illegal immigrants.
Yeah, pledge that you won't deport children. Meanwhile, wasn't the only time there ever was a child deported at gunpoint?
What about the ones Obama just released last year? Over 100,000 criminals were released from prison.
As the current administration.
How do we do that? We just had an illegal
he's the
immigrant
deporter
today
in chief.
kill 4 people.
Right, but meanwhile, there's people that are committing crimes over and over again being let go and coming back into the country.
Yeah.
Stop the deporting of people who are living here, doing their lives, doing their jobs, and that's my priority.
But again, yes or no?
Again,
yes, she's not answering the question.
Want to deport children who are already here.
I will not.
But that's why there's hundreds of thousands of children flooding across the border right now by themselves.
I want to, as I said,
children up to 35 years of age.
Yeah.
Violent criminals.
There's like 30-year-old
who they ask at the border, are you in a gang?
They're like,
no, you're not in a gang? Okay, come on in.
Let's go party.
That if you become president, you won't deport children who are already here.
I will not.
And that you won't deport immigrants
she's pledged.
who don't have a criminal record.
That's what I'm telling you.
She's not pledged to the flag or the country.
I'm contradicting what I told you in the interview. Asylum is a particular legal process. I'd like to see it changed. I'd like to see us give more support to people who come fleeing the terrible violence that they do. But under our law, we have a process we have to go through, which is different.
You would stop those deportations?
I would stop.
The deportations for children?
Yes.
I don't think they are really deporting people at this point. They're busting them all over the country, telling them to show up for court hearings, and they're not showing up.
3 years. Like, here's your summons to show up to court 3 years from now.
You got to
Texas while you live in Washington
You got
State.
the Arizona border sheriff saying Obama has handcuffed us. Literally, we're not allowed to do our job.
Brain Force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're gonna crash, you're gonna feel really bad afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. For example, the L-theanine inside of it, that is activated by the different compounds in the yerba mate that we put inside of it as well. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a car will run on one form of junkie gas, but it runs really good on what it's designed for. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Introducing Secret 12, the new Infowars Life vitamin B12 formulation. Most forms of vitamin B12 are highly processed and synthetic and could not be properly absorbed by the body. That's why for real results, so many are having to turn to painful B12 injections, which are known to have higher absorption rates. Now, InfoWarsLife.com is excited to announce that we can bring you our most bioactive, powerful form of B12 that has been developed with our exclusive perfected process. Secret 12 is a binary of nutramedical grade, bioavailable coenzyme forms of B12, methylcobalamin, the same kind used in B12 injections, and sildenafil-cobalamin. Secret 12 is simply taken by mouth, right on the tongue, and then swallowed. No needles, no injections. Don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. Discover the secret. Secret 12. Secure your revolutionary Secret 12 formula right now at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
I want to talk about some crimes today that are so horrific that they make it from the other side of the world here to the U.S. Now, normally when we talk about, international news, it's some type of ISIS attack, some type of terror attack, or, military hostilities. But this is a particular crime that's taking place in India, and it seems to be happening very frequently, at least from my point of view. Without trying to find these things, they come across the news cycle. And I'll start with this one from the Daily Mail. Mother is gang raped on Indian bus as her daughter 3 watched, and then the attackers proceeded to murder her 2-week-old son. The 2 men have now been captured and charged with gang rape and culpable homicide. And they attacked a woman on a bus, raped her. The young girl, who was not harmed, thus is my understanding, in the incident, was able to hide on the bus from the perpetrators, and then actually had to testify to the police that the men had raped her mother. And the men, from the reportage, they say that they picked up the baby, the youngest baby, the 2-year-old or the 2-week-year-old, threw him on the ground and killed him. And then what first brought this to my attention was the 2012 gang raping of the young lady in Delhi. And in that situation, it was a sexual assault by 5 predators. She was on a bus, and actually I have the article right here. A Delhi bus gang rape victim has intestines removed as shocking details of assault emerge. So basically, they raped her so violently, so viciously, not just, with their body, but also with a iron rod. They had to replace the young lady's intestines. And one of the people who was a perpetrator in that event has actually been released. He was a guy who was, I guess, not of age at the time. So he has been released this past December. He's out, but the other guys do remain in prison. And, this is just one example. I have many more articles. Girl 15 raped and set on fire in India. And this happened, or at least was reported on March 8th of this year. And a 15-year-old girl is fighting for her life in a Delhi hospital after she was raped and set on fire. The burns cover most of her body. That's just one example. We also have another one. 17-year-old girl allegedly gang raped by 5 men in Delhi. And this was a situation, the young lady was outside of a campus, and she meets with a young man that the reports say she knew. He says, hey, you want to go for a ride with me? She says, yes. She gets in the car. They, reportedly give her some type of sedative. They proceed to rape her at a hotel. And this is just the ones I was able to find in a very quick Google search. There are many more that I didn't print out just for the simple fact I didn't have the stomach to cover all of it. So in a time when social justice warriors are so vocal about the war on women, I definitely hope that people take this war on women very serious and start to make changes over there in India. You can find more reports on Infowars.com.
Richard, CNN's reporting top Rubio supporters Trump attacks have backfired. It was Rubio's one saving grace that he looked or was able to act at least presidential. Now we have him engaging in personal attacks, talking about Donald Trump's small hands and making allusions to his penis size. Not very presidential. So is this the end for Marco Rubio? Is this the beginning of the collapse of his campaign? Will it happen before we even get to Florida?
Well, Paul, that's exactly what may happen. And I think Donald Trump usually doesn't drop the ball on anything, but I think he dropped the ball the other night when he was talking about his hands. He should have talking about that they were an indicator of his big brain. So he is really on the ball on so many things. Now, one thing that came out yesterday is that Jeb Bush is supposed to meet with Cruz, Rubio, and Kasich. That meeting is supposed to happen today before the debate tonight. So we can look for any kind of surprise right now, folks. What it is when Marco went negative, when Marco lost decorum, which is another decorum's a synonym for political correctness, which about 25% of the Republican Party, plus or minus, are all about decorum. You can be right on every issue. You can be pro-life, pro-constitution, you can be right down the line, small government, conservative, etc. But when you go outside of decorum, like Marco Rubio did, which that's his key block. That is his key block of support. Then boom, that's when you saw the single digits coming out. You saw him not do that well in Super Tuesday because he went out of decorum the Thursday prior to Super Tuesday at the University of Houston debate. You saw him perform poorly Super Tuesday. Then you saw it get even worse the Saturday afterwards, after last Thursday, when he had another night of debate when he was outside of decorum. Those folks, that establishment faction of the party, they're all about decorum. Another word for that is politically correct activity. Another word is go along, get along, which is why we're in the situation that we're in, because we've had go along, get along up there in Washington, D.C. for so long. So those people aren't able to yet look in the mirror and realize that they're a big part of the problem. Now, that being said, let's talk about the dangers to Donald Trump. This is a very dangerous point right now because the powers that be have got their political calipers out, and they're looking at, all right, do we want to have Rubio drop out maybe perhaps even before the debate? You know, one scenario we could happen is Kasich and Rubio don't come out for tonight's debate, and all of a sudden you have the one-on-one with Trump and Cruz. That's a possibility. Another likely scenario is they have the discussion, they have the debate as scheduled, everything goes as planned. You could have one or both drop out, or they could both stay in, and then they could evaluate, all right, how did Marco do tonight at Thursday night's debate? I don't think he can rehab himself with his establishment that they were trying to get to come to Rubio. He cannot rehab himself with one good night of debate. So I think they're really looking at having Marco Rubio step out of the race prior to Tuesday's vote in Florida. They're going to try to, in a backhanded fashion, shift the establishment votes to Ted Cruz, who has good decorum. They've got John Kasich. He's got the good decorum, you know, so they're going to try not to let him go to Kasich in Florida. They want him to go to Cruz to try to defeat Trump. And in Ohio, Kasich has got the decorum, so they'll try to point the establishment to Kasich, or if Kasich drops out pre-Ohio as well, then obviously they're going to point the establishment faction to Cruz again. So these are the dangers, Paul, and I think it's a very, very dubious moment that we have here.
So you're basically saying that the GOP establishment now is putting pressure on Rubio to take one for the team so that his support will all be handed over to Ted Cruz, and basically they're trying to consolidate that because they can't have this split support between Kasich, Rubio, and Ted Cruz, because it's just not going to be enough to overturn Donald Trump's surging popularity.
Well, in most states, you see Marco Rubio now in single digits. You see John Kasich in single digits. Most states, they know that they've got just a very small of amount of percentage that they can swing one way or another. And now, as Alex talked about earlier in the show, Neil Bush joining the finance team of the Ted Cruz campaign, the news of the Jeb Bush meeting with Cruz, Rubio, and Kasich. So I tell you what, a lot of things are in the works. And as Miriam Witcher, the Hispanic lady from Las Vegas that is totally pro-Trump, pointed out, Marco Rubio is looking for a job right now. He's never going to have more leverage. He's never going to have more leverage than he does right now. After Super Tuesday, even if he wins Florida, he's still going to have less leverage because mathematically he has zero chance almost mathematically of being able to go into the RNC in July with a majority with the 1,237 delegates. His mathematical odds of that right now are pretty low. As a matter of fact, even for the front runner, Donald Trump has to win 54% of all the upcoming delegates to get that 1,237 number. He's only at 43% right now. So historically, over the last few months, he's not been able to achieve the necessary 50% or better. He's in a position where he needs 54%. Ted Cruz is in a position right now where he needs 62%. And needless to say, Marco Rubio and Kasich are up there in the high 60s, low 70s of percent of upcoming delegates they need to win, which basically means they're mathematically out. Now, like I said, Marco's looking for a job. He can't run for his Senate seat. He was blocked out of that. Florida has rules where if you're running for president, you can't run for Senate. You can't be on two places on the ballot in Florida. So he is out of the Senate. okay, which is great news because he's proven himself to be a Tea Party traitor. And so it's great news that Marco Rubio will not be in the Senate, but he's not going to be president either unless there's some stroke of genius by the establishment. But I just can't imagine it.
Thanks for watching the show tonight. We'll see you here again tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central.
Knockout is back. If you want a product that has 10 known ingredients that naturally get your body to relax, your brain to relax, so you get deep, restful sleep, Knockout's it. Infowarslife.com. L-theanine, hops flower extract, lemon balm extract, valerian root extract, chamomile flower extract, L-tryptophan extract, melatonin, and more. All organic, all the natural sources. It's the same price as leading brands of melatonin that are 3 milligrams a piece. It has 3 milligrams, the standard recommended dose for an adult, and it just synergistically puts everything in there. Infowarslife.com. That's Infowarslife.com, or call 888-253-3139.
You are watching the Infowars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. And your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.